J Jinx!
Truck stop!
Well, here's hoping the audio issue is cleared up. So I've carried and used a bunch of these things for the past 5-6-ish weeks. And this is the video where I tell you how I feel about these things. So these were unboxed from Smoky Mountain Knife Works. It was the mock surprise mystery monthly box thing that they don't do anymore. It's been about 5 years since they stopped, and they just never brought it back. A shame. With this Lollipop Rough Rider knife, the canoe configuration, I like it, except for the problem I noticed right away when I unboxed it. That is, the pivot is just super rough compared to what it could be, and for that reason alone, I had a bit of a rough time, get it, carrying and using this knife. It's a little thing. I mean, the way, knives open, the walk and talk or the pivot or what have you, it's almost like kind of arbitrary in a way. As long as it opens, it stays open when you want it to, and closes when you're done, who cares, right? It's open, and that's it. But the thing is that with slip joint knives, that's pretty much the only thing that it's got to do well, besides be comfortable, is to open and close with that satisfaction. And with this knife lacking that to me, like I said, it was hard to like it. I do like the canoe configuration. That's something I learned about myself recently. Love the colors. Love the way that this is made. These sort of inlay things. It's everything about this knife. It looks great. And the pivot, to be fair, did loosen up quite a lot over time. Now it's actually getting closer to what I expect. I didn't use the pen knife at all, because that one just opens a hell of a lot rougher, as you can see. I guess that's why they call it Rough Rider. I really could have gotten one that had a nice pivot. Could have gotten one that had massive gaps and tons of play and rub and things that I also don't like, because that's the risk with cheapo knives, and these are not very expensive. And the packaging is pretty cool too. I mean, obviously, it just shows you right up front what this pattern is all about. It's that swirly candy look. Very fun. And I guess I'll work my way to the edges here. So then there was this BADD tool. I don't remember what the BADD stood for. I'm pretty sure it was a beer and destruction device. Pretty sure that's what it was. Now, I did actually use this. There's a little bit of gunk on this circular bit. It opens beer cans just fine. That's I think what this is for, bottles and cans. That's all pretty much all I used it for. I couldn't get into my pocket at all. That tiny gap between the very tip of the pocket clip and the way the scale kind of minimizes that distance, I just couldn't get it into my pocket at all. I wanted to comment on the comfort of it, especially with this big hunk of metal kind of sticking up out of your pocket, but I didn't get that far. So it's not the kind of thing I would want to carry around in my pocket all the time. I'm not a pocket pry bar guy, and I'm not constantly drinking things that need to be opened with something so immense. So it was just kind of the cheapo novelty thing that I wanted. used it a little bit. It's cool, it's fun, but it's not going to hold a place of high esteem in my collection. Well, next I'll go to the Marbles Massive Toothpick Knife. This one I actually did carry and use quite a bit. Just dropped it down into my pocket and let it roll around with the other things that were in there. And there's a little bit of gunk and stuff that got into the knurling, or maybe that's damage. It's kind of hard to say, actually. I don't know. It's just some pocket filth, probably. You know how it is. But anyway, so it was alright. Just really, really big, long, slender. But what I used this for mostly was actually food prep. It cuts food just fine. The length of the blade means you can make those deep slices if you're cutting something like an onion or a pepper. I cut a lot of chicken with it, and not much else. I mean, I did some box opening and whatnot. I think I would have enjoyed this knife a lot more if it was smaller. If it was more like, I don't know, the canoe size, even with the blades fully extended like that. It's too much knife for me to use casually on a daily basis. But other than that, it was excellent, and I still love the haptics of it opening and closing. Now, if only the canoe were that smooth, you know? It's a really, really cool look for a knife. This one will be esteemed in my collection. I may or may not have mentioned it at the time of unboxing it, but it's so big, it's almost a Leguli, you know? And I'm still in love with the packaging. It's just a neat package. And next, I will move to the case knife, which this model is called the Mini Fin. And it's good. I actually left that burr on there because I decided, you know what, I'm going to use it as it arrived, and it actually cuts a lot better than I anticipated, even with the burr. And I also mostly used this knife for food prep again. Cut up some peppers, onions, and what's its veggies, basically. And it did a pretty good job. In spite of that burr, it made clean cuts. Did have to put a little bit of oomph behind it, but not much. It's got a great blade for that sort of thing, and it maintained its high polish the whole time. I mean, there's not much that a pepper or an onion could do to mar the surface. That being said, it's comfort-wise not the greatest. It's the handle's just almost too small. I got the opposite problem with this one. This one's too big. This one's almost too small. It's a 3-finger grip, and my fat fingers just barely fit in there, and it leaves the pinky to just kind of hang out by the bottom of the bolster. Everything's nice and smooth and chamfered, so that wasn't a huge problem. It's just not the most comfortable grip. I would have liked it if the handle were like maybe an inch longer. And I think that what I'm saying is maybe I should just find the full-size fin and do that. It's also a little bit goofy with how this dimension here, the thickness of the handle and the guard, and then the knife gets just super slender and thin coming out of that. So it's very handle heavy, even though the whole thing's light. It's a small little fixed blade that is pretty great quality. Take the burr off the edge if you want. I kind of didn't need to for what I was doing with it. Anyway, gotta talk about the sheath a little bit. Pretty much everything I said at the unboxing stage, if you were able to stomach that audio, still stands firm. It smells good. It looks cool. That's about it, though. There's problems. I will demonstrate. So, get your knife in there, you snap it shut, and put this onto your belt, and you're walking along through the woods or whatever. And one of the great things about this sheath is its very quick deployment mechanism. Observe. Yeah. This thing just does not hold in there. You can literally slip it in and out without doing the snap at all, which is great if you want to save the snap and the time. And I think that the obvious reason is that the guard just doesn't really stick out enough, because there's a little spot right here where it kind of helps it retain, but without applying too much force, it just slips right past. And you can see it rubbing right there. And that leads to the other issue, is that if you just keep using it like that, it's eventually going to wear that piece of leather out. You can already see there's markings on there. So I found myself using this snap, not because it was secure, but because I didn't want to rub the hell out of the leather and wear it out. Not a big deal for me, because I didn't like really do anything too egregious with it. And I think that would have been a simple change in the design to fix it. Kind of surprised they didn't catch that, or maybe that's not a problem on the larger version of this knife, and they wanted to keep an exact scale replica. I'm just not sure. But in spite of the quality control issues that Case has been exhibiting as of late, I'm still a big fan of their knives, and this one in particular, I think I'm going to get a kick out of owning for a long time. Next I'll talk about this knife. I never actually got around to using it very much. My first impression was, very, very slick handle, but after just kind of holding it for a while, I don't think that's a problem, because the guard is actually very well suited for maintaining control with slicing and stabbing. Can't say for sure, because I haven't technically tried to doing that with this knife. And honestly, this is just an eye candy kind of knife for me. It's not the kind I would casually use and carry. Not a big fan of the sheath, for starters. But they do give you a couple of options for wearing it. You got the classic nylon belt loop thing here, but you also have a couple of straps in the back I didn't notice at first, and you can, I don't know, attach it to things that way too. Didn't even try this stupid sharpening stone thing either. That's fine. I don't care about that. For the price, I think it was $30. Underwhelming. Pretty normal. I think if it weren't for the resin in wood handle, this is just a bit overpriced, especially since it's Rough Rider. But it's shiny, it's polished, it's well made, is what I'm getting at. The star on the bottom, I didn't really get around to figuring out if that is what's holding the tang into place, but I can't imagine what else it's there for. And I don't know how to remove it, because it's, well, a star. If it were, took like a bit or a screw head, if it were a screw head or something like that, I would take it apart just for curiosity's sake. But no idea what kind of tool you would need to take that thing off. Neat to look at, but not the best to look at. I guess disappointing, mediocre, not gonna buy again kind of deal. But I don't fully regret my choice, because it's worth a shot. You never know. And now I can't seem to... Oh, I missed the slip. That's why I was trying to shove it behind the slip. So that's another issue there, I guess. The slip is not the easiest thing to hit when you're getting this thing back in, and the blade is so short. So the blade is so short compared to the handle that I don't know how to describe it. It's like it feels very imbalanced, even in the sheath. All the weight's on one side. I guess the stone helps a little bit to counterbalance it. And here's another problem. I can't get the thing back in when the knife is there. There we go. I suppose if you really wanted to, you could repurpose that little pouch thing. Looks like you could fit a lighter in there, perhaps. Some other kind of survival-y thing. That's all I got to say about that. It's not much. And that brings us to the Schrade knife. I don't remember what it's called, but it was cheap. I remember it was less than $10. I believe I can give my synopsis in just a couple words, and those are the following. It's about on par with an Ozark Trail knife in terms of its quality and construction, function. which go these days for like $6 or $7 or sometimes more, depending on the model. And that's about where I gauge this thing in terms of quality. That being said, Ozark trail knives are actually getting pretty good, so that's not a bad thing. The pivot is pretty excellent for a cheapo knife. I have no complaints about that, and everything is objectively fine. There's no blade play, the centering's good, the lockup is good, and the only thing I got to complain about, and I knew it when I saw it, it's, again, the pocket clip. I could not get that into my pocket at all. It is really, really tightly pressing against the scale, which is fine, but I just can't get it. I couldn't do it. Not enough room here where it lifts up. And like I said, I was kind of expecting that, so I just dropped it into my pocket and carried it that way. And I know some of these marks and Mars, like here, rubbings, were there when I got it, and I'm pretty sure I added some more, and that's okay, because I don't care. It's a cheap, shitty knife. One thing I didn't expect, and I guess this is a good thing, there was a bit of a nostalgic factor to this knife. That cheap plastic made to look like it's supposed to be metallic with the kind of jar opener rubber inlay. There's something nostalgic about that, and I think it's because, for me, one of the first knives I ever owned was one of those cheapo knockoff SWAT knives. I happen to have the real deal right here. See, you can see Smith & Wesson on there, first production run. This knife design was so heavily copied. I remember my friends and I, we ordered one for each of us out of like one of those catalogs. I don't know which one. It was the like early 90s. My friend Soupmaster still has his. I have no idea what happened to mine, but we didn't know any better. They were shitty, cheap, terrible. But you can see the resemblance in terms of the coloration and the finish and stuff like that. Like I said, it gave me a bit of that nostalgic vibe. The nice thing about cheap, shitty, plasticky knives is that you just don't care when there's damage to them. So, you can drop it on the ground, you can scratch it up, and it almost makes it better in a way when, it's like when after you own a car for like 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or more years, you get that first dent, that first scratch. Feels like the end of the world. It keeps you up at night. But then after a while, when you stop caring and you finish making your payments, it's kind of like having a free car, and you just kind of stop giving a shit. And that's the period where it's like, it feels more like a tool. I'm kind of rambly. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense, but I'm trying to find the positives, and I think that's one of them. I think one of the things that I used to do as well was I always kind of picked a favorite of the bunch. That's a little bit difficult here. Well, it's definitely going to be one of these three, and you've heard my reasoning for why I had issues with these knives, and just for the stiffness of the pivoting. The canoe knife, I'm going to say, is probably out. I carried this one in my 5th pocket, I should have mentioned, and that actually fit in there pretty well. Gosh, I probably would have picked this one if it weren't for the rough walk and talk. Got unlucky with that one. And that leaves us with a knife that's not folding, and a knife that is folding but is bloody huge. I'm gonna go with the Marbles knife, and here's why. It was the most pleasant to use. There was just nothing wrong with it, and if you can get used to the size and you are okay with a very long, slender clip point blade, it's a really great folding knife, and it looks fantastic. And very, very smooth on the opening and the closing. I know some people don't like half stops, but I do. And so for those reasons, I guess I would pick this one as my favorite of the bunch, with the case mini fin being a close second. I think if this were somehow a folding knife, I might have picked it, but because it's fixed, it's just more difficult me to carry and use it as often as something that's folding. And so I just wouldn't be able to use it so much if I had picked that as my favorite. Overall, I was a little bit disappointed. I think that it's great having a knife-heavy mystery box, but there wasn't any one knife that was just like, everything about this is great, there are no flaws. But normally there's one knife where it's like, it blew me away, I learned to love it, maybe I didn't like it at first, and then I eventually liked it. I don't think that happened very much here, maybe with the exception of the cheapo Schrade knife, but it's a cheapo Schrade knife. It ain't gonna be picked anyway as the favorite. Had the best packaging as well, in my opinion. I'll probably do this again at some point, but not for a while. I've got another project in mind. Stay tuned. This has been JJ Jakes. Truck Stop Knives.